Today, we're talking about growth for the Chicago Bulls as we're going to be taking a look at some of the things that will need to happen in order for this team to get some more wins this upcoming season, along with the things that will need to happen for this team to continue to build long term. And so, before we go ahead and we jump into it, I first want to remind you to slam dunk on that subscribe button, just like Modest Buzelis slam dunks in games. And so, in exchange for slamming on that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Chicago Bulls. And so make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Chicago Bulls Insider family as we talk nothing but Chicago Bulls basketball. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it as we're talking about growth for the Chicago Bulls, and not just for this upcoming season, but also too for the long-term plan and build of this team. And so let's start with Modest Buzelis, because I certainly think that if Modest Buzelis takes a step forward as a player, this is going to lead to some more wins this upcoming season. And it also too is going to help just the long-term plan and vision for this team. And so I know we talk a lot about the offense with Modest Buzelis, and I know that that is talked about a lot with him. But I think one of the more important things that Modest Buzelis is going to do this season, which is going to lead to some more wins, is his ability to defend, because I definitely think he has the athletic ability to do so. But I want to see if he has the strength that is going to translate there defensively, because if he does have that strength, which it looks like that he has, over the summer kind of built up some more strength and stuff like that, but we need to see it when it comes down to games during the regular season and everything else. But first of all, from a perimeter standpoint, I think he's going to be tougher there. And then I think next, as far as the interior defense, that is something that would be huge for this team, because if he's a guy that can be a little bit more of a rim protector, and then also to have that versatility to be a two-way type of defender, then you're talking about, I think, just helping this team get some more wins that way, because defensively they get even more tougher. And I think Modest Buzelis is a guy that maybe not a lot of people were counting on that end, because we talk about it with Ayo Dosunmu, we talk about it with Isaac Okoro, we hope that we see it with Patrick Williams, but I think that that would be something that just a lot of people would not necessarily see coming, because if Modest Buzelis takes a step forward there, then the offense comes along with it. I think that you really are putting yourself into a good position this season. And also too, I think that AK kind of looks at this and says, okay, we have a little bit more of kind of what the blueprint is and just really how we can continue to build with this team. And so the next, player that I think could be really important to the team getting some wins this season, and this is probably going to be, again, a hot take there, but I think that Noah Essengue really stepping into the role of what Modest did a season ago, that would be huge for the Bulls getting some more wins this upcoming season as well. And so I'm not just going to go out and say that he would be a player that could get into the starting lineup by the end of the season like Modest Buzelis did. And if he did, I mean, I think that that would actually be incredible, if he were able to play that well. But I just think that if you're able to have him come off the bench and be a solid contributor, not necessarily start like that, but be able to kind of provide in spurts like Modest did, I do think that that would help the team with the win totals, especially if you're looking at what he could provide on the offense and the defensive end, his ability to get up and down the floor, and then also, too, his ability to defend. And so he would obviously need to get stronger. But again, if you're just comparing it to what Modest did a season ago, I think that that is something that could help the Bulls get to some wins. And then we're talking about the long-term plan. And so clearly this would also, too, kind of validate what AK is trying to build, with this young core that he has. And so the next thing that I think would have to happen for the Bulls to take another step forward this season, and I think for the long term, is just really they need to find a way, I think, to hold on to Ayo Dosunmu and Coby White. And so just going back to Ayo Dosunmu and just getting a chance to look at his recent blog that he has there, man, you could tell, number one, he's putting in the work, but I just loved when he had his mantra towards the end of it, where he's talking about just, you got to have this faith in the playoffs and things like that. And so, I definitely encourage you to go take a look at that. But it just reminds me of why I always say that I would bet on Ayo Dosunmu and Coby White, and why I think that what they bring to the Chicago Bulls is something that you can't measure in stats, and it's something that you need to really turn a team around. I think that every team that's gone off to go win at any level in any sport, you have players like this that essentially they will do whatever is necessary for the team. They bring that type of toughness, the type of grit, and just really the ability to excel despite the adverse situations that they get into. And I think it's something that really, without them even saying, it's just the leadership that you need. And so I think with Coby White and Ayo Dosunmu, you get that. And Ayo, I think, man, I do think he's going to fight to get to a starting role. And so I said that he's going to be a starter this year. I'm still sticking by that. I do think that he does become a starter out there with Coby, and then also too with Josh Giddey. And I could see him, playing that small forward position and just really being an impactful player. I think he's going to have a huge season this year. And if he does, you can count on this team taking the next step forward this season in the win columns. And then also too, I think that if AK is going to keep this core together, then I think that this also kind of leads to just more clarity as to how you would want to build. And so now shifting over to Coby White, I think he's in a prime position to really take off this season offensively. I do think that we want to see some more from him defensively as well. Now, I think that when you look at him on the defensive end, he's not the best individual defender, but he finds ways to get steals. And I think he understands what to do with the team concepts and stuff like that. You trust him off ball. And so I think that those things do take a step forward. And I think that, look, because he does take a step forward, this is just another indication to how the Bulls can get some more wins. And also, too, if you're planning on keeping this backcourt long term, then this certainly would play into what you're trying to build with this team. And so this is how that would tie in long term and short term. And then next, when we start to talk about just some of these younger players, and just really players that have got to take a step forward. And if they do, then you're definitely talking about increasing in wins. And it starts with guys like Dalen Terry and Julian Phillips. And so, Dalen Terry has certainly put in the work over his time, and he's shown some progression, but it's just, can he take one of those bigger jumps this year? And so can he be a guy that consistently gets to, I don't know, maybe 8 to 10 points a game or something like that? Like, you would love to see that offensively. And then defensively, can he continue to show that, okay, look, he can be a pretty good on-ball defender. He can be that pesky type of defender out there and just hounding people and things like that. Can he be that type of player? Because if Dalen Terry is able to come in and really put together, I think, a consistent effort throughout the season, then you're talking about players stepping up that maybe you didn't necessarily count on them having major roles, but they take off there, because you might need this, especially if a guy like Patrick Williams kind of digresses a little bit more. So you would need that. And so also too, when you look at Julian Phillips, and so Julian Phillips, I think he's definitely on the right track. And I think that, Billy Donovan definitely trusted him to start. And so it's, can he take the step forward to where Billy Donovan could trust him to start some more if need be, depending on how he would like to adjust the lineups. And then if people go down, and then even if he's not starting, can he continue to show that athleticism, be even better off ball? Can he be a guy that's more of a creator in his offense and putting the ball on the deck? And I think defensively, for me, I'd like to see him become a little bit more versatile with his ability to switch a little bit more. I think he has the potential to do so because of the athleticism. I think it's more so just kind of locking in and just getting a little bit stronger there, but he has all the tools. And so I could see where this also could help the team get some wins. And also too, when you're talking about just your direction, this is something that AK wanted to do by clearly shifting and going younger. And so this kind of validates that path and the younger players that you would have on the roster. And so let's see if both of those players can step up. And then when you're talking about some of these players that are younger veterans, like a Kevin Huerter, like a Trey Jones, like a Zach Collins, you would need for those players to definitely step up. And so I talk about Kevin Huerter a lot because he's now starting to trend towards that player that we saw with the Hawks, and that is a player that you can definitely win some games with. And so can he be the guy that we saw once he got comfortable in this offense? Now he's going to come in with a full training camp, understanding the playbook that much more, understanding his teammates and just really how things click that way, where they would want to get him the basketball, where he needs to be defensively. And so there's really a chance for these younger veteran players to step up. And I think one of the players that you probably don't necessarily have as somebody that could step up that is a younger veteran on this team would be like a guy like Jalen Smith. Like, can he get his way into the rotation and be a pleasant surprise for this team? I think that this would help the immediate as far as getting wins. And so we'll see what happens there. And then lastly, when it comes down to Billy Donovan, I think that he is going to have to be a coach that he takes more, I'm not going to say chances, but he makes more adjustments. And so maybe that means that you do come out with a bigger lineup at times and you try to, you go with a size advantage, or, maybe it is like, okay, some nights you do go with the smaller lineup to see if you can get the advantage there. Like, just constantly kind of shifting things around. Also too, just trying to keep it fresh with, how he's attacking teams offensively and then defensively as well. Like, I think that that's going to be another key aspect, because I think he came up with the phrase like during training camp, run and have fun. So I'd like to see him come up with a phrase defensively for this team, because that is going to be huge. And so you guys let me know in the comments here, as far as the path and keys to growth this year. We just touched on a couple. Let me know what you're thinking as far as things that would need to happen, with this team in order for them to take a step forward in the win column this season. And then also too, what are the things that would need to happen long term for this team that you would need to see from this roster? And so, as we always say, look, go Bulls, and I will see you on the next one. All right, peace.